Greetings, welcome back, and here we go with another review. So today we're going to be having a look at Yes Madam, following on in a little sort of semi-way from my sort of Royal Warriors review in terms of sort of that. Remember, if I was talking, if you have seen that review about the In the Line of Duty franchise and things like that, and here we go with Yes Madam, which in very many ways was the first one. This is sort of where it all began. This was the first real chance we got to see Michelle Yeoh and Cynthia Rothrock do their thing properly. Yes, the film is a bit rough around the edges, but you can't underestimate the importance of Yes Madam, and I'll be getting into that a little bit here today. I remember this was known as Police Assassins. If you recall, like my Royal Warriors review, it can get a bit confusing. You can trip over yourself when trying to get through the chronological order of some of these movies, but Yes Madam is the one where it all started, and it's all linked, like I mentioned, with that In the Line of Duty franchise as well. I say this was known as Police. I mean, when Hong Kong Legends released it as well, they released it as Police Assassins. As I mentioned in my Royal Warriors review, the whole In the Line of Duty thing with the Yes Madam saga can get confusing, as I keep saying, but I'll be trying to work my way through all of the movies. I'll be trying to get through all of them as well, from like In the Line of Duty 3 and Line of Duty 4, directed by Yuen Woo-ping and starring Donnie Yen. So it's quite, as I say, it seems no matter how many films I review, no matter how many films I get through, there's still loads and loads and loads left. But so you just have to bear with me, and I'll try and get through as many Hong Kong classics as I can. So I say, just remember, if you are confused about these films, this one is the first, Royal Warriors is the second. The film launched the whole girls with guns genre that was extremely popular in the 80s, directed by Corey Yuen here and made in 1985, produced by Sammo Hung and John Shum. So you're in good hands here. You've got Corey Yuen in the director's chair, Sammo Hung and John Shum are like behind the scenes producing, so you know you're in, like I say, a good place. I think Cynthia Rothrock's part was originally meant to be a guy, but the producers were so impressed with her skill and abilities they changed their part to a woman. Michelle Yeoh had won Miss World Malaysia up to this point and even appeared in an advert with Jackie Chan and a brief role, as we know, in Twinkle Twinkle Lucky Stars. But this was her first sort of film, I believe, as sort of the central lead character, putting her front and centre. Cynthia's too, so this was them really showing the girls can do it just as good as the guys can. This was the whole motive and like ploy with the film, only using a stunt double unless necessary. I think Yeoh was in the gym for something like 8 hours a day, I read at one point. Such is her commitment and like an amazing talent that Michelle Yeoh is. As I've always said, the Hong Kong film industry recognises and saw Rothrock's talents more so than what Hollywood ever did. I think the Hong Kong film industry saw what an amazing martial artist and an amazing gifted talent that Cynthia Rothrock was, and you know they gave her the chance here in Yes Madam to really show her stuff. And I think in a way, I know it sounds silly, but in a way it's almost a blessing that the Hong Kong did saw her and like gave her the chance, and that, because otherwise she wouldn't have appeared in so many classic Hong Kong movies. And there's loads, like, well, not loads of Hong Kong movies, but a good substantial amount of like sort of classic films, like Millionaire's Express, etc. And the two in this, with Cynthia and Michelle, work really well together. It's a shame we never got to see these two amazing leads work more together. I mean, this is a film with probably two of the all-time greatest action stars from the heyday of the mid-80s. You have to remember, like with Yeoh, everything she has done, Oscar winner, working with Jackie Chan, Bond girl, you name it. It sort of all began here with Yes Madam. And thanks to people like Sammo Hung producing and Corey Yuen directed, and action by him and Mang Hoi, the film should always be appreciated. If you don't know what D&B film stands for, by the way, who have done all these movies, it stands for Dixon Poon, who was like the money man, and B is for Bo, as in Sammo Hung can Bo. It's ironic that Sammo, a man who often accused by feminists as not treating women properly in his movies, that he's often accused of that. That's been one of the criticisms that people have had of Sammo over the years, unfortunately. But here he is producing a Make Happen, probably the best original template for a female action movie that there is. Many argue that there is an inconsistent tone to the movie, the comedy and the action, I think, and that is largely because the original cut of this was, I think, a lot harder. I think the original cut of this movie was a lot harder than what you get here. and more serious in tone. We have a lot. There's more focus on the comedy moments between Mang Hoi, John Sum, and Soy Hark's character. Yes, Soy Hark is actually acting in this movie. Whilst our two leads are always playing sort of catch up in Cynthia Rothrock and Michelle Yeoh, they're sort of always on the back foot to these three. It's almost like you got the group of guys, and they're sort of the main people, and Cynthia and Michelle are sort of always on the back foot all the time. But it doesn't ruin the film in the slightest. It's just a big distraction in terms of what the movie is meant to be about. So the film starts with Michelle. We will call her Michelle, just for argument's sake. She gets flashed in a bookshop, right, by some creepy guy, and she traps his penis in a book. Right, so yes, really, that is what happens. So then we have this robbery with this guys trying to escape in an armoured vehicle. Yeoh blasts the tyres with a shotgun, though. If you watch this scene, I don't think the vehicle is anywhere near her. Like I think she has this shotgun, she sort of shoots it, and if I recall, the vehicle is nowhere actually near her at the time. I love at one point she blasts one of them with the shorty that he is on the floor, and people are like, was he involved with the robbery? He just got blasted with a shotgun, so yeah, probably. Her boss doesn't want to take her to take a vacation. Dick Wei, villain as always, is meeting a guy called Richard Norden, which is so close to Richard Norton. In this, he's called Norden, Richard Norton, to give him money for this microfilm that has a forged contract. Richard Norton, if you remember, is in Mr. Nice Guy, City Hunter, Twinkle Twinkle Lucky Stars, you name it. China O'Brien, been in loads of films. So he's meeting this guy, and so you might think ends up with him getting shot in the face, but you can think Dick Wei might have actually asked where the film actually is. He's trying to get this film, he's trying to get money for this microfilm that has a forged contract, and ends up with him getting shot in the face, but he wants the microfilm, but you think he might have asked where the film actually is before shooting him, if that's what he's after so bad, because he has no idea where it is, but he shoots the guy anyway. We go to Mang Hoi and John Shum, Aspirin and Strepsil, as they're known in this film, who are robbing hotels, sort of like passports and things like that. Like going to the different hotel rooms. Yeoh turns up and was meeting Richard Norden for dinner. Mang Hoi has taken his belongings and his passport and money where he kept the microfilm, but Mang Hoi doesn't know that in this passport there is the microfilm. You see where the plot and the film is going. You've got this bumbling group of robbers. They've got the microfilm that this guy wants, and this is all the film is about. That is just the MacGuffin here. It's just this microfilm. So we have Soy Hark here as Panadol, and these three are like a group of thieves, but they're like good-natured ones between him, John Shum, and Mang Hoi. Like the film focuses, as I mentioned, does get put on these three more than it does our two female leads. For most of the film, Hart's character does like fake IDs and passports, and he's sort of that, sort of like forging them and things like that. So these three are saving money together for their master, and are just, like I mentioned, like petty thieves. James Chen, as always, is our villain here, and James Chen, starting in like films like with the Bruce Lees and like Big Boss, and he was in some of the low wage Jackie Chan's, but in the 80s he really come into an element on his own, James Chen, when he was in the villainous role in so many Sammo Hung movies, Winners and Sinners, you name it. And the guy's just always fantastic as a baddie. This, along, I'd say, with Winners and Sinners, are probably two of the most. He's good in this, but I think Winners and Sinners is probably my most favourite performance from James Chen in terms of like when he's a baddie. So his goal is he wants the film destroyed, right? That's all that he wants. That's his whole aim as the villain. He just wants this film destroyed. So this film is behind this guy's passport photo, and Hark doesn't notice it and puts it like on his headgear while he's doing some work. We learn from Michelle's boss, Melvin Wong, that Richard worked for the Commercial Crime Bureau and was investigating Tien's real estate bribery case or something. It really doesn't matter at this point, the plot. These kind of films, you don't watch 80s Hong Kong action for the plot. You don't. So just if I'm going through the plot, do not worry about it. It doesn't need to make all that much sense. All that matters is the baddies want the film back. That's all we need to know. So London has sent in their best female American detective, right? Cynthia Rothrock to help. Our gang of thieves see Norden's death in the paper and realise it was the guy they stole from and get paranoid, and it could be traced back to them because of the passport. And what's interesting, we have Summer Hung here as their boss in the cameo role at the nursing home. We also have Richard in here too, and these guys all crave some chicken and meat for some reason at this home. So Soy Hark has made a passport for a guy, and Samo tells them to go get the guy who has the passport. The passport was as this was Norden's passport. He used Norden's passport for this other guy who wanted a passport. Okay, they tip off the police saying someone will use the passport. They go to get the guy, and Rothrock is at the airport and beats the crap out of him. So after this, she beats him even more at the station too. Her character just takes absolutely no crap, basically, as you would expect from a tough American, tough American British police officer. So he gets taken to Panadol, and listening to two cops talking learns it was Panadol who sold him out. So he breaks free, which is all part of Michelle's plan. Her and Rothrock are butting heads initially about their methods. Bearing in mind Hong Kong audience weren't too accustomed to a Western lead at this point as well. So it's credit, to Corey Yuen and Samo. But they wanted Cynthia on board. They was more than up for giving Cynthia a shot, and she does say amazing. I mean, Cynthia Rothrock, just incredible, just classic. A wonderful martial artist. So this guy goes back to find Hark. Why did you grass him up? This is what I couldn't understand. He's like, surely if he gets grassed up, it's going to be by Hark. Surely you knew there might be repercussions, So the police now have the passport. His dude wants to kill Panadol, and believe me, you'd hate to live below Panadol. There's explosions, there's fights, there's grenades, there's God knows what happening in his apartment. There's just non-stop. There's always something going on. Every time there's a visitor, it's just there's just crazy action. So Rothrock turns up, shoots the guy, and apprehends Panadol. God knows if she kills the guy or not. Check out Yo's hair in this movie too. She has some very slick gel going on, very awesome slick gel vibes going on. There are funny moments in the movie. Bearing in mind Mang Hoi is very short and how scruffy like John Shum hair is. Hark is when he's being questioned, he's like, well, one is very tall and the other one has really really straight sort of nice combed hair when under question about this passport. So as mentioned, we have Dick Wei as our villain and Chong Fat as Mad Dog, sporting some classic curly hair and super thick eyebrows and mustache. You can actually see him just briefly there. I don't know if you can see that on the cover. To Chong Fat when he's got really thick tash going on and perm, and for some reason Chong Fat, when he's in certain films, they go to town with him sometimes on the eyebrows and the hair for some reason. This film's no exception. So Wade tracks Aspirin and Strepsil down to a snooker hall as he saw them in a hotel. They escape after he chases them on a motorbike into a club where Rothrock and Yo just so happen to be. Have them both taken on Dick Wei in an awesome fight where they both get to show off their stuff. Mang Hoi and Shum escape, and I love them being all paranoid in their apartments, such as Mang Hoi lighting the cigarette the wrong way and things like that. But like I say, going back to what I said previously, if they didn't want any trouble, I couldn't understand why Panadol and that they alerted the police to what was going on anyway. So sure, like mentioned, surely that's just going to make matters worse. But in terms of the plot, you really don't need to take it as that seriously, because it's just an action mid-80s Hong Kong action, and that's what it is. So then we cut to Wu Ma and Billy Lam arguing who gives this guy a parking ticket. Aspirin and Strepsil beat up Wu Ma at this point so they can get arrested and sort that, so they can be arrested and sort of be safe under police security. The police want them to hand over everything they stole from the hotel so they can have a clue what the killer wants. Hark at this point in the movie has all but disappeared, Soy Hart's character. Anyway, they go back to his and find the microfilm that's been attached to his headlight all along. Like I say, if you remember, he put it on his headgear, the microfilm's there. So the whole idea is Chen is involved in a contract forgery and wants the evidence destroyed, right? So probably me describing this has sounded so confusing, but that's it in a nutshell. So Yo and Rothrock pay him a visit and Hark rings him up, though I have no idea how actually is James Chen's number, saying basically they had the film and their idea is they want to make cash from it, right? So look out for James Chen's shirt in this movie too. It is see-through, but man, can James Chen rock it. Can James Chen look super fly. So they arrest him, but the film the police have is bogus, as John Sham wanted to do the right thing, but Hark and Hoy kept the real film to blackmail James Chen, and they gave John Sham a negative that he had no idea that was the one that he took to the police. So Mang Hoy and Soy Hark want to sort of, well, we got the film, we might be able to make some money here. So Rothrock is told to go home and Yo told to like take a vacation. Mang Hoist goes to make the deal with James Chen. Dick Wade recognises him from the hotel, and you can tell by the size of James Chen's place and all the glass and the furniture and everything that surrounded them in this sort of where he lives. You probably think, I remember watching it the first time when I first saw it back in the 90s, like when I was really young. And I was thinking, that's probably where the end fight's going to be. You know, that I think with what's in James Chen's place and what's surrounding all the glass and the space they've got, that's more than likely where the end fight is going to be. It's quite obvious that's where the film was going. So Rothrock confronts Hark about the fake. Wade confronts Hark about the real one. I mean, did they really think this was going to be like end well with trying to blackmail these like hardened gangsters? Did Mang Hoy and that? Did they really think, okay, we'll get through this all right? We'll try and make some money. It's not going to work. So Soy Hark's character gets shot and actually dies, which does come out of nowhere. And there's these three have sort of been like, all up to this point, it's been sort of comedy and sort of somewhat light-heartedness. Yeah, there's been violence in it, but these three have sort of, you think they're just sort of bumbling thieves, but Soy Hark's character actually does die. Shum, now really annoyed and upset, gets loaded with guns, gets the real film from their savings box and drives to James Chen's. And I loves him shooting at the goons, not knowing what gun is real or fake, because like Panadol's got all these fake guns and he brings these guns along and he's not even sure which one actually works. So Shum actually swallows the film. They still say, okay, let's burn him and cut him open if they have to, because they really want this film after Shum's even swallowed it. Yo and Rothrock team up and watch Rothrock here doing some awesome bow staff work, doing the splits up against the wall. And as I say, they really do go all out here. As I say, with people like Mang Hoy, I'm pretty sure, and choreographing the fight, and Corey Yun behind the camera. You know, you're going to be in good hands. And when you've got performers like Michelle Yeoh and Cynthia Rothrock in their absolute prime, just incredible stuff. And so she does this splits up against the wall at one point. Yeoh taking out two goons on the balcony by crashing through a plate of glass, head first, I might add. And pulling on their legs. And I love how Chong Fat is so over the top, like I mentioned, where, you know, where they put him in all these like fake eyebrows and permy hair, like when Dick Wade kicks Rothrock in a sensitive area and saying, sorry, I didn't mean that, and she gets him back and says, yeah, I did mean that, you know, which is quite funny. Chong Fat gets absolutely annihilated with this block of wood used by Michelle Yeoh. Turns out Chum didn't swallow the film and Dick Wade burned it in the light. Melvin Wong turns up, who James Chen then called for trespassing. And the film ends so oddly and bizarrely, this movie. If you have seen Yes, Madam, it ends. The police are all in Chen's favour at the end. Like, Chen's is like, he's sort of covered. He was the one that called the police. He's arresting them, wants to be arrested for trespassing. And the film ends so weirdly. It's like Mang Hoy, whilst arrested, gets hold of a gun and shoots him. And so it's kind of weird. It's weird that sort of they gave sort of the, like I say, the guys like the last say of the film, rather than, like I say, focusing on, because you would think maybe the way it's marketed, and like if you look at the cover of the film and when people think Yes, Madam, they think it sort of was the first of its kind. But you do, along with the Michelle Yeoh and Cynthia Rothrock, like the cops, you also have John Shum, Mang Hoy and Soy Hark as these sort of bumbling crooks going along with it. So they sort of, like I said earlier in the review, Cynthia and Michelle, they're sort of always on the back foot of the film, but they more than steal the show at the end. So you've got, I think it's one of these Hong Kong classics you do have to watch. It's a fantastic movie, whilst not perfect and is a little bit rough around the edges. Just watch it for, just like I say, Michelle Yeoh and Cynthia Rothrock teaming up, doing their thing in that classic, great, fantastic Hong Kong style, and just basically watch Yeoh and Rothrock team up and kick some ass, basically. So thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the review. Make sure to check out Yes, Madam, and I'll see you soon.
Don't concentrate on the finger or you will miss all that heavenly glory.